Hello and welcome to today's video. So we are looking at, in this series, the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell's monomyth theory, where he put down the different stages that a hero would go through to form a narrative structure that has been kind of attributed to a number of different movies and narratives and stories kind of throughout entertainment and such like. So we are going to go through the first few stages of the journey today. We're not going to look at all of them. We're going to split them up into different videos so that you can look at them as you go through the week. So let's remind ourselves of what we were looking at. So there we go. So the hero's journey. Hero ventures forth from the world of common day into a region of supernatural wonder. So I'm going to leave it there with that quote. You've had that quote from me before and you can read it yourselves because it's up on screen. Okay, and we looked at this little breakdown of the hero's journey as we go through. So it's a little storyboard kind of version of it, and we are looking at the call to adventure, that first stage that we're going through. Part one we're going to look at today. So we've got the ordinary world, the call to adventure, and the refusal. So those are the three sections that we are going to look at today, and then we'll come through the others and complete the journey as we go through the videos this week. So I'm going to use Star Wars as my example. It works really well with this, and like I've said in previous videos, George Lucas, who created Star Wars, has kind of referenced the hero's journey and the monomyth when he's talked about how he came up with the story and the narrative of Star Wars itself. I'm going to be using Star Wars A New Hope, which is the fourth in the series, but the first theatrical release from 1977. So it's a film close to my heart, as I've said, so I know a fair bit about it. If you've not seen it, then don't worry, you don't need to necessarily go away and watch it to go through. I'd encourage you to, because it's an amazing film and it's my favourite. But it will just, I will just go through and explain the different elements as we go through. So I will be kind of giving a little bit of a plot development of Star Wars A New Hope. So if you do want to see it, then you might want to try and watch it before you go through these videos. Okay, but it's been out since 1977, so I'm not too worried about spoilers. In terms of availability, it will be on Disney Plus at the moment. If you're not signed up to Disney Plus, then you can sign up for it for 7 days for free, I think. So that might be a way through to give it a watch. But it's widely available in all good stores, shall we say. So we start on our hero's journey in an ordinary world, and I'm just going to briefly, with each of these, read through the text that's on the screen, just so that you've got it. So if you're listening to this, then that's perfect. If you are watching it as well, then apologies, I know you can read, but I'm just going to go through it for everyone. All right. So this is where the heroes exist before his present story begins, oblivious of the adventures to come. It's his safe place. So it's where we find our hero. It's that very kind of first part, or the opening scene, and establishing kind of where our hero is existing at the moment. His everyday life, where we learn crucial details about our hero, his true nature, capabilities and outlook on life. This anchors the hero as a human, just like you and me, and makes it easier for us to identify with him and hence later emphasise with his plight. Okay, so our hero in this story within Star Wars is Luke Skywalker, who is on your screen on the left at the moment, and we find him kind of working with his uncle on a distant planet in a galaxy far, far away, where he is essentially a farmer and working as a farmhand in that sense, and there are kind of stories going on around him about a kind of a big empire and a big kind of space fleet that is trying to impose themselves on the different outworlds within that universe. So we find him very much as your standard farm boy, and that's where we find where we find some of his story. His uncle gives us a little bit of backstory, if you like, in terms of who his father was. His father's not around, and gives us a little bit of insight into why our hero might have that pull to go on this journey away from their ordinary life. But where we find him, where we meet him initially, he's kind of interacting with these two droids that we find within our story. Okay, and the idea is that they're going to go off and they're going to wipe these droids' memories and use them on the farm. Simple as that. Okay, and they're going to be farmhands and help out in the harvest for that year. So that's where our journey starts. It's on a dusty planet. It's on a desert planet, and they're just farmers, kind of working on the land. So the next stage of our story is the call to adventure. So the call to adventure, where our real story starts. So we've established our main character with their setup, and now we've got the call to adventure. So the hero's adventure begins when he receives a call to action, such as a direct threat to his safety, his family, his way of life, or to the peace of the community in which he lives. It may not be as dramatic as a gunshot, but simply a phone call or a conversation. But whatever the call is, and however it manifests itself, it ultimately disrupts the comfort of the hero's ordinary world where he was starting, and presents a challenge or quest that must be undertaken. So for Luke Skywalker, in our story, you've now got on screen the 2 droids that he's picked up, that he was going to take away, get Wyatt to get working on the farm. Okay, when he's looking at cleaning them up and sorting them out, he finds this message, which is a hologram of a princess who's asking for help from a character called Obi-Wan Kenobi, who we will find out about later. And there is your call. So like it says, it doesn't need to be anything grandiose or like a gunshot or an explosion or anything like that. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Here we've got a message that isn't for Luke Skywalker, that is found and discovered while he's just cleaning up and doing something that is encapsulated in his ordinary world. So he then takes it upon himself to work out what the call to adventure is, so that he can find out who this Obi-Wan Kenobi is. He knows of someone else called Old Ben, and he thinks it might be him. So that's where his call to adventure starts. He needs to get this message from this princess to this man that he thinks it might be for, and go from there. He doesn't know if it is, he doesn't know for sure, but he knows that she is in desperate trouble, and she is worried. He only seen part of this message replay over and over again. So his call to adventure is to find out who this is and who's it for, and is it as important as it seems to be at this stage. Okay, so we've got our ordinary world and we've got our call to adventure. The next stage is the refusal of the call. So we've just been called to adventure, and now we've got the refusal of the call, which seems quite quick. But let's have a little look in our story. So although the hero may be eager to accept the quest at this stage, he will have fears that need overcoming, second thoughts or even deep personal doubts as to whether or not he is up to the challenge. When this happens, the hero will refuse the call, and as a result may suffer somehow. The problem he faces may seem too much to handle, and the comfort of home far more attractive than the perilous road ahead. This would also be our own response, and once again helps us bond with our reluctant hero. So he's got this call to adventure. So to fill in some of the gaps, Luke Skywalker has found this message on the droids. He thinks it might be for this man that he is aware of called Old Ben, even though the message is talking about an Obi-Wan Kenobi. So he takes it to this Old Ben and plays the message, and then realises that there is a situation that the princess does need help, that Old Ben is the recipient of this message, and starts to tell Luke about the Empire, this army that is kind of ruling the galaxy at the time, and that he needs to go with Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ben, and to find out what the situation is, and to try and find out where the princess is and to help her. So that's the call, really. That's extended kind of the message that he found on the robots, on the droids initially, and then looking at kind of what the main part of that is. So Obi-Wan is saying that you need to come with me, you need to help me find this princess. We need to find out what the deal is with this message. Obviously, that's quite different from being a farmer and working on the harvest over the summer, which is what he was planning to do with these droids. So we're linked back almost. What would our reaction be? How would we feel if we were suddenly taken from what we know and what we understand to saying, right, you're going to go off and kind of fight in this big war and help me find this princess? It's very different. So the refusal of the call is quite a natural instinct. It's quite a kind of gut reaction that works very easily. So now we look at what stages are going to come after this. Okay, so we've got our hero seeing this message, being taken out of his ordinary world and having this call to adventure, and then really being taken aback, saying, well, I don't know about this, I'm not sure about that, and not taking up the mantle initially. And you've got it there, second thoughts or even deep personal doubts as to whether or not he's up to the challenge. Is he ready for this? He's just a farmer in our story that we're using, and our example. And he's worried about whether or not what he knows and what he understands in his home life, in his ordinary world, is better than whatever the call might be. And it's then looking at the risks that the call might have on his home world, and weighing that up between whether or not he should go to protect what he understands in his ordinary world, or whether or not he should just leave it. Okay, so there are your first 3 stages of our hero's journey. We had the ordinary world, where we see where our hero exists, where we establish kind of what they're like and what they do, and what they're about initially. It anchors them as a bit of a human character, humanizes them, and gives us some understanding and maybe some relationship with them initially. We then see their call to adventure, and how they might be taken on this journey, how they might find out about this journey, whatever that might be, however that might happen. It might be huge and kind of explosive, like it says on there, or it might be really simple, like the message that he finds on the droids in our story. And then you've got the refusal of the call. Well, I'm not sure about this. Is this really something for me? This must be for someone else. This isn't for me. I'm just a farmer. Okay. Trying to understand what is being asked of him, trying to understand what the part of the journey, his part in the journey is going to be. Okay, we will have a look at the next stages in our next video. So we'll look at the mentor, crossing the threshold, and looking at tests, allies and enemies, and how that fits into our hero's journey. All right, so pop back next time. We'll look at the next stages. Remember, you should be working on your own choose your own adventure story from the website that I've put in the description on here. Make sure please that you've gone through the tutorial. Make sure that you've had a look at how that works. Let's just remind you of the website. I've still got it open. There we go. All right, so it's inkwriter.com. Okay, inkwriter.com. Like I say, it's in the description. Go through the tutorial, make sure that you understand and think about what your adventure is going to be. Think about the different options that you might give your readers as they go through. All right, that's it from me. The next time we'll go through the next few stages of the Monomyth and the hero's journey, and we'll see where we go from there.